Welcome back to Solo Marvel Champion, where I've got another topic video for you. As always, check the description for more YouTube creators making videos for Marvel Champions. And if you like what you saw here today, please consider a like, sub, and comment to help the channel grow. With that out of the way, let's get to today's topic. This is another video I didn't plan or schedule. It really just came out because when watching MCDeckDiscussions, he always lists the gauntlet of villains that he tests against when he publishes a deck. And then he talks about that when he is talking about that deck. So he has a gauntlet of 4 villains that he faces off against in Standard and in Expert. And over the course of those games, he refines the deck and talks about those revisions right within the deck's description. I love the idea of that because it lets you know, hey, I did face off against some difficult villains with this. These are the ones. But also talks about how doing so changed the deck. And I think that's more important. That, lets us know what he had planned for the deck and then what changed because of the testing process. So for this video, I just want to talk about the 3 villain gauntlet I use. I do the same thing. I will do them in Standard and then Expert. And I'm going to start adding that into my deck descriptions as well. So I'm going to start with Rhino. I'll go ahead and say, I don't want to bury the lead, my gauntlet is the core set. So I run Standard and Expert Rhino, Claw, and Ultron, and that's what I've been testing against lately. Starting with Rhino, Rhino gives you a small taste of everything in the game. He has some guard minions. He gets tough. He can stun and confuse you. He has overkill, crisis hazard, and acceleration icons. He can heal. And he has some damage soak in this armor here. And he does it in a way that is not overly complex. New villains come out, and even if they're easy to defeat, they're super complex. You have so many forced responses and forced interrupts going all over the place, and it's easy to miss something. With Rhino, he's not complex at all. He doesn't have a million forced interrupts or responses. So even if he is easy, he's not complex. And that's why I like to run Rhino. Another thing, he has that low threshold for threat, and he has a very high damage potential. So why do I like testing against that? Number one, can I keep the thresh down on the main? I think I just said thresh. Can I keep the threat down on the main? If I can't, I need to go look at that deck and see what I can do to increase my ability to thwart. He hits really hard. Not as hard in stage 1, but once you get to stage 2 and 3, he's hitting you like a freight train. And this 4 attack with a charge, that's 7 with overkill. You also need to worry about that overkill damage. How are you going to deal with that? Are you just going to tank that damage? Are you going to, stun him maybe so he can't attack? A lot of times when I get a charge, if I'm in a good enough position, I'll flip down to Alter Ego to get more cards, hoping to flip back up and just finish Rhino off so that charge never goes off. The minions he comes with are not difficult. Sandman has 4 hit points and a tough. Shocker will deal a damage to you if you're in hero form when he enters. And he does have a couple guards. I like the guards here. They don't have toughness. That's something I'll talk about when I get to Claw. He also is going to get these Hydra bombers from Bomb Scare, and I love that we have a choice with this bomber. When revealed, choose to either take 2 damage or place 1 threat on the main. Depending on where you are in the game when this comes out, you might need to put the threat on, or you might need to take the damage. And I've had games where neither one of these is a great option. In fact, I had one game, not recently, but where either of these choices would defeat me. Putting one threat on the main puts it up to 7, taking 2 damage. Well, I'm only at 1 hit point. So either way, when this came out, it defeated me. Now, Bomb Scare is not a difficult mod set, and I'm fine with that because, again, it is not overly complicated. Standard Rhino gives you, only 19 hit points to deal with. But on the second stage, you get this hazard icon. This has 3 in Standard. And if you're playing an Expert, this starts in play. And that's what I love about Expert Rhino. Not only am I concerned about getting some initial board setup accomplished, I also want to be able to take out a hazard icon on turn 1. So now I've got to be thinking, okay, can I get an ally out who's going to help me thwart this off? Do I have an event which can thwart this off for me, etc.? It gives me something else to think about when I'm playing that Expert game. And if I'm playing Standard, I want to be able to defeat this as soon as I flip him. So that's another consideration. Another reason why, even though, it is very swingy in solo play, and this low threshold just means you could get an advance that wrecks you, I'm fine with that, because if I was doing a better job keeping threat off, that advance probably wouldn't have hurt so bad. So that's Rhino, Standard and Expert. I really like that as my initial deck test because of those factors. Can I keep threat off the main? Can I deal with a huge attack? And if I can't on either of those, I need to go back and look at the deck again, see what I can do to make it better. Next is Claw, who comes with Masters of Evil. Claw stresses your deck in a very different way. In Claw, he is racing to acceleration because he gets 2 boost cards when he attacks. Now on stage 1, that's oftentimes not terrible. I've had 0 boost come up, so he attacked me for 0. Hey, lucky me, I'm great. The problem is a lot of these cards have boost effects, and not a lot, but enough of them have a boost effect that if you're drawing 2 of them on your turn, you're going to get one of them eventually, right? Weapons Runner will get put into play as a boost effect. This will, that's not the one, Sonic Boom will exhaust you if it's an attack and you take damage. Masters of Evil, all of these villains, all of these minions have a boost effect. Discard a card at random. My least favorite effect. Deal 1 damage to each hero, give the villain a tough, and exhaust each ally you control. This one sucks especially. And this is a scenario that starts, even on Standard, with a minion in play, and it's going to be random. You can't tell which one. It might be an armored guard who is a guard with a tough status. It might just be a weapons runner. That's kind of best case scenario, but it could be Radioactive Man. The number of times I've started a game with Radioactive Man in play, it's a large number. And this really can tell you if your deck is going to be okay, if you can deal with this. And maybe you can't deal with it on 1 turn. So he's going to be attacking and you're going to be discarding random cards. That's his ability. But you might get one of these as well. So you're always starting with a minion in play. You're also always starting with a crisis icon in play. So again, can I do some of the initial things I need to do for setup while also getting rid of a minion and or getting rid of Defense Network? And then when you're playing on Expert, you're starting with 2 side schemes in play. You've got Defense Network and the Immortal Claw. His 10 hit points aren't that big a deal. The biggest problem here is the acceleration. This is the one I always want to get rid of first. So now, can I defeat a minion and get rid of Immortal Claw? Can I do that and also get rid of Defense Network? That will tell me a lot about a deck. Can I deal with these two boost icons and the inevitable acceleration which is going to come because he's discarding more cards from his deck each time he attacks you? Claw is a lot of fun and definitely more difficult than Rhino, but not any more complicated. He doesn't get very complex. The most complexity you're going to get here is with the boost icons or the boost effects. And that makes him really fun to test against. And I know MCDeckDiscussions tests against Standard and Expert Claw as well, but he does have a really cool house rule that I haven't used, but I think makes a lot of sense. When he is discarding at the beginning to get a minion, if he doesn't get one of the Masters of Evil minions, he will make sure one of those is in play instead of the one he does get. So if he gets an Armored Guard or a Weapons Runner, he will replace that with a random Masters of Evil. I think that's a really good idea. I just haven't been doing that. I think there is enough of a stress test in Standard and Expert Claw that I don't need to intentionally make it more difficult. It's one of those things where you discard and you get the Weapons Runner. You're like, whew, I got lucky there. Even the Guard. The Guard sucks because of that tough if you don't have piercing or an ally that can knock off the tough and then you take him out or whatever the case may be. He can stick around a couple turns. But one of these is almost always going to be sticking around a couple turns. So I like that house rule, but I don't employ it myself. Again, though, he is difficult without being super difficult and not complex at all. This is a card you have to worry about. Take 2 damage, Claw heals 2. I've been defeated by this card many times. It's one of those things, if you don't play Claw often, you forget about it, and then you end up with 2 damage, and you're like, okay, I'm going to flip down. I'm exhausted right now, but I'll recover next turn before I flip up. Well, this is your encounter card, and all of a sudden your game's over because you forgot, hey, I need to stay above 2 in case that one treachery comes out. So, Standard and Expert Claw, those are the second wave in my Gauntlet, and you learn a lot about your deck facing Claw. Can it deal with side schemes? Can it deal with big minions? Can it deal with an acceleration icon, which is inevitably going to happen? I've never played Claw, and I was going to say something that I don't think is true. I was going to say I've never played Claw and not got the acceleration. I actually did once. I think I got that on video. I'll have to go back and check, but it is rare, in my experience, to get through Claw without getting an acceleration. All right. That is stage 2 of my Gauntlet, Standard and Expert Claw. Then we'll go to Ultron. Ultron is one of my favorite villains. Despite having a really crappy mod set, I really dislike Under Attack, but I'll talk about that in a second. What Ultron provides you with is a constant stream of minions while also disrupting your deck. The big thing with building a deck is you build a deck to behave in a certain way. And Ultron, every single turn, takes one of those cards away from you and turns it against you. So I've had games with Black Panther where the Golden City, which is a card I always want to get out ASAP, is discarded as a drone. I've played a lot of games with Hall of Heroes, which when you defeat a minion, gets a counter, and then in Alter Ego, discard 3 of those counters and draw 3 cards. Well, that has been a drone many, many times. Anytime you have a key card in your deck, Ultron can chew it up and spit it back at you as a drone. So he really helps me test the deck. Can I do what I want the deck to do, even if I can never play my key cards? And sometimes you can, and sometimes you can't. Being able to overcome that is a lot of fun. I've had games where playing a shield deck where Sky Destroyer has been a drone every single deck pass. And Sky Destroyer is fantastic for taking care of those drones because any shield card I play is going to ping one of those drones off. And losing it early and often really affects the deck. But if you can beat Ultron despite that, it's okay, right? So I do like it for that. Also, the way you get drones, there are a couple different ways. Well, there are 3 different ways you get drones. Like you get one to start with. That one's not terrible. It's just a single drone. Take care of it. You're good. Ultron 1, after he attacks you, either get a drone or place one on the main. Well, the main one only has a threshold of 3. There are times, though, when, go ahead and do that because getting that up to 2 does not push it. And if you're able to thwart 2 every turn or remove 2 threat in some way every turn, that going up to 2 isn't terrible. Because if it goes up to 2 and he draws an advance, that's exactly the same as it staying at 1 and him getting an advance. It's almost always going to pop with an advance. Now, when I was testing a recent deck just a couple days ago, it was at 1 and I drew advance and I was angry. But then the boost card was 0, so it only went up 1. I was like, holy cow, I got lucky there. But most of the time, you're going to lose main 1. So it going up to 2 instead of taking a drone is not a big deal in my opinion. As long as your deck can deal with 2 threat every turn. That's another benchmark, right? Some decks can't deal with 2 threat every single turn. And if your deck can't do that, this is a good stopping point to think, okay, what do I need to do? I really need to change this up now because just being able to deal or remove 2 threat every turn is a big deal, and I can't do that right now. So that's part of it. On Ultron 2, he gets a drone when he attacks. And that also adds to his attack. So you get the drone, and if you can deal with that as it comes out, like with the Hawkeye Ally or Lie in Wait or Widow's Bite if you're playing Black Widow, it's not that big a deal. It goes away before his attack would finish. So it comes out, he's up to 3 attack. If you blast it before he draws his boost card, basically, he's back down to 2 attack and you don't have to deal with that drone. Ultron 3 does not make drones, but he makes drones more difficult. He gives them +1 hit point and +1 attack. That's not terrible, and honestly, I love the fact that he's not making drones. The next way he makes drones is with his main 2. Forced response after placing threat here during step 1 of the villain phase, each player must either place 2 more threat or take a drone. Now, if I'm in Alter Ego, I'll take the drone because it's only going to scheme for 1, and I'm not putting 2 threat on the main. If I'm in hero form, a lot of times I will let the threat go on instead. And again, now I'm at a point where I need to remove 3 threat on my turn. Can I do that? Yes or no, and then that will change what I do with my deck. The third way he makes drones is with encounter cards. Sometimes a card will just say, hey, put a drone out. Sometimes it will give you a choice about what you want to do. And then he also has healing. He has healing for drones, and if he doesn't have a drone, it surges. So this is one. When revealed, each drone attacks. If there are no drones, make a drone. Drone Factory will give you a drone. Ultron's Imperative, which you will see if you're playing Expert, puts 2 drones out and a hazard icon. So those are the 3 ways drones can come out. Big question with Ultron is, can I keep him on stage 1? If you can, that's amazing. And I've done that only a couple times. So if you can keep him on 1B, you're eliminating one of the ways he can make drones. And if you can get to stage 3 while on 1B, he's not making drones anymore. The only drones that are coming out of the encounter deck. So it can be a fun puzzle to make that happen. But when you can make it happen, it's a lot of fun. So let's talk about his hit points. He has 17 and 22. That's 39 in standard. He has 22 and 27 in expert. That's 49. So 10 extra hit points going from standard to expert. And that's not insignificant. That's a lot of hit points to get through. Furthermore, he cannot take damage on stage 3 while there's a drone minion in play. So experts, while I think beating standard Ultron is a good test, beating expert Ultron is a very strong test of your deck. Can you beat expert Ultron knowing that you can't damage him while there are drones out? And you almost have to have a plan for expert Ultron. You have to be able to get rid of drones as they come out or defeat drones en masse. So I also want to say that while I'm not designing a deck against these 3 villains, I'm designing decks to do something. And if that something doesn't allow me to defeat these villains, maybe that something isn't good enough. The big thing I hate about Under Attack is Claw gave you some attachments which you could pay to get rid of, right? Under Attack does as well, but you also have to exhaust your hero in the transaction. So after the villain takes damage, give him a tough, exhaust your hero and spend physical to discard this. Attached to the villain, he gains Retaliate 1, exhaust your hero, and spend energy. That's giving you an extra thing you need to do to get rid of these, and you do want to get rid of these. Vibranium Armor is especially tough because anytime he takes damage, he gets a tough card. So now you've got to deal damage and take off a tough. Or I should say you have to take off the tough and then deal damage, and as soon as you deal that damage, he gets another tough. So that's definitely a card you want to get rid of. You have to exhaust and spend physical. Just like with Claw, this is another card which can wreck you. When revealed, deal a damage to each friendly character. Boost, deal a damage to each character you control. That is rough. That's going to take out allies that you're like, okay, I've got one more activation out of this ally, and then that comes out as a boost card. No, all my allies are gone. This side scheme is a punch in the gut too. When revealed, either place 2 extra threat here or deal 3 damage to your hero. You may have situations where you cannot deal that 3 damage to your hero, so this goes up to 5. And notice here that it is to their hero. If you're an alter ego, when this comes out, you don't have a choice. This goes up to 5. I wish that said identity instead of hero, but it does say hero. So that is my Gauntlet. Standard and Expert, Rhino, Claw, and Ultron. Now, you're not going to win every Expert Ultron game. You might not even win every Standard Ultron game, and that's fine. It's not about beating those villains. It's about stressing your deck. Ultron, I think, does it the best because he's taking your deck away from you. and you always have a minion to deal with. And those minions add up, especially like when you get to stage 3 and he is giving them +1 hit point, +1 attack. Now they're attacking for 2. There are 2 copies of upgraded drones, which does the same thing, although not for every drone. This is something I only realized recently. Each face-down drone gets +1 attack, +1 hit point. Ultron 3 says each drone minion. So his upgraded drones are going to get that, or advanced drones is going to get that buff as well. All right, those are, or I should say that is my gauntlet. I feel like if I can get through those 6 villains, standard and expert on the 3 villains, I think my deck is pretty good. Now, a deck I recently published, T'Challa's Royal Guard. This is a take on Black Panther where he is mostly, relying on his Dora Milaje allies. And can I do that across those 6 games? Mostly I did. Where's my testing? I tested through the core gauntlet, standard, expert, rhino. I won both of those games. Of course, you expect to win against standard rhino, right? Expert rhino is only a little more difficult, but again, I love the non-complex nature. It's really straightforward. Standard and expert claw. The expert game on claw was a little more contentious. I won this game with 2 hit points left, but in all 4 of these first games, I won with a final turn playing 2 or 3 Wakanda Forever. So that's always fun to pull off in T'Challa. Standard and expert Ultron. The standard game went fairly well, and I wasn't even running Hawkeye. I switched Hawkeye out, or switched him in for Maria in the expert game, and I won that game too, but that was not an easy win either. In that expert game, I finished the game with 1 hit point, and I was on stage 3 of Rhino's main scheme, Countdown to Oblivion, and I had 3 threat on it. Of course, you cannot remove threat here. I think that's another good thing I didn't talk about. This puts you on a timer. If you get on this timer, now you have another question. Can I deal, 22 damage over 5 turns or before 5 turns? Because if you don't, you lose. You cannot remove this threat. So while I don't like getting to Countdown to Oblivion, that's also a good test. Can you get there and still defeat Ultron? I know when I first started playing the game, if I got to Countdown to Oblivion, I would just scoop and say, okay, I lost that game. Now, I think it's another good part of the test. Can you get here and still defeat him? And then I talk about the changes I made. Okay, here's some cards I never played, or I did play once, but it didn't really, do anything for me. So that's something I'm going to start doing in my decks. A lot of time, most of the decks I've published, I build the deck, I tweak it a little bit, but don't go through an extensive testing process. I'll maybe play a couple villains and pick one that I'm going to record for the channel, and then tweak to make it pretty good against that matchup. But going forward, I'm going to run this gauntlet with every deck and talk about that into the description. Here's what I tested against, here's what I changed, and, kind of give the record for those. So that was a very long-winded way to say, this is my gauntlet, standard and expert, Rhino, Claw, Ultron. Let me know in the comments what your deck testing gauntlet is. What villains do you face off against when you're testing a deck? With all of that said, and I think D20 said this, so I don't want to claim that I came up with this, but do we need to, quote unquote, test decks? Just build a deck and play it. You know, I don't think we need to test decks. I think testing decks helps when you publish a deck so you can tell people, hey, these are the villains I faced, so I know I can beat those. But I think for the casual gamer, just build a deck and play it and see what it does, you know. Face off against your favorite villains. Did it win? No. Oh well. So I'm kind of on the fence about deck testing in general. I don't think it's 100% necessary, but I do like the idea of including your deck testing, data in a published deck. So I'm going to do that from now on. One more thing I want to talk about before ending this video is what I've been using to test decks. Now, I do own everything for the game, but assembling your deck and doing the physical actions of playing the game do take a lot of time. I've been using Dragncards lately to do a lot of deck testing, or play a lot of games, I should say. Now this is Dragncards, D-R-A-G-N, there's no O, you are like dragon cards around, I think is why they named it that. And it has plugins for all of, maybe not all, but a lot of Fantasy Flight Games LCGs. I only learned recently that Marvel Champions was added. I've been using this for a long time for Lord of the Rings. That's another game for which I own all the cards, but Dragncards makes deck testing and iterating much, much faster, like very, very fast. Especially in Lord of the Rings, I got to the point where I just hated trying new things because you'd build a deck, you'd play a scenario, it would go good or bad, and then you would go to make changes and you have to do it all over again. This, for Lord of the Rings, the card game, made that process much, much faster, and it's doing the same for Marvel Champions as well. So you do have to create an account. My name here is Solo Marvel Champion, and once you have an account, you load Dragncards, click on Marvel Champions, and create a room. Now, I always do a private room. I would guess that if you're playing multiplayer, you need to do a public room. I'm not sure. This is actually really powerful. I'm going to hold Tab. Tab brings up your hotkey options while you're playing. So some of them you're going to become really familiar with. Damage is 1, threat is 2. I'll show you what that looks like in a moment. Your generic token, acceleration, confused, stunned, tough. Makes it really easy to implement those things, and way easier, in my opinion, than Tabletop Simulator. In Tabletop Simulator, you have to drag, tokens around and drop them on things, and sometimes it doesn't drop where you want it to go, etc. But this handles it very well. Exhausting and writing a card, flipping a card, all of these things are super easy. Then there's even a shortcut for Shadow of the Past. Shift S, it puts your Nemesis into play, puts its side scheme out, shuffles your other cards into the deck. Although sometimes I'm not sure it's shuffling the deck after you do that, so I like to shuffle the encounter deck after that. But it makes playing the game really quick, really easy. Deal an encounter card, deal a boost card, etc. So really easy to implement. Draw a card. You don't have to move over a card and drag it. You just hit D and it'll draw a card. So with that said, I'm going to load that Black Panther deck I just talked about. Really quick and easy to do that too. If you hold Control U, Dragncards.com says paste the full Marvel MCDB URL. I paste it. Now it's loading my T'Challa deck. From here, I'm going to do Control L, and these are on this shortcut, right? Control U, load deck via URL. Control L, load pre-built decks. In the parlance of this game, or this program, a pre-built deck is your scenarios. So let's say I pick Ultron. Now, not with everybody, but with a lot of the villains I've messed around with, it does all of the setup for you. So Ultron drones came in, it gave me a face down drone. I can now use F to flip that. If you hit D, it draws one card. If you hold shift and hit D, it fills your hand. So that's really convenient. Now, and I'm just going to discard some things to show you the mulligan. Let's get rid of this, and you can just hover over it. And if you'll notice this yellow glow around it, that's how you know you're on it. Sometimes you think you've got that and you don't, and that gets a little frustrating, but it's fine. But if you scroll over a card and just hit X, it deletes it. Or not deletes it, it discards it. Let's discard that. Let's discard that. Again, just for example's sake. Shift D is now not going to draw me 6 cards. It's just going to draw me up to my hand size. So now I've mulliganed. Now we can get into the game. And I'll do a full playthrough of this and really show how it works in the future. But this is just, for now, showing how I use this program. Let's use Strength to play Golden City. Exhaust Golden City to draw 2. I'm just going to DD. Mockingbird may be the way to go here. Let's do his setup ability before I forget. We're going to get Energy Daggers because I'm playing Ultron. Then I'm going to shuffle that. And I think what I'm going to do, 2 and that Inspiring Presence for Mockingbird, just because that gives me the stun. And it looks like I've got some slowdown here, probably because I'm recording it. When she enters play, I stun, which is just going over him and hitting 6. I'm going to attack this drone and knock it out, and then using the 1 key, give her a damage. Super easy. Let's do... yeah, might as well do that. Let's flip up using F. I'm going to do Innovation, which heals her 1. So top of the card adds, bottom of the card subtracts. And Okoye for Energy Daggers. Let's get rid of that, and I am just going to attack for 2. Then, really easy, I'm going to hold on to that Vibranium Suit. I'm going to Shift D, which draws me back up to hand size, and then Shift R readies all my cards. Super duper easy. Beginning of the villain phase, I'm going to use the 2 button to add 1 threat. Ultron cannot attack because he's stunned. I'll just knock that stun off, and I'll hit E to get 1 encounter card. Let's flip it. Deal 1 damage to each friendly. So I take a damage, and she takes a damage. Now we are back to the hero phase. So really easy, really quick to play games and test decks, and then to, you know, modify your deck. Just go up to your deck, edit it, make the changes you want, save it. This is going to be the same number, or the same, well, the number of course, but this is going to be the same URL. Just go in. What I like to do, menu, I like to go ahead and close the room if I'm not going to play again. I'll just clear the table if I'm going to play again. But close room, I'm going to just say incomplete here because it's not a complete game. But clear table, incomplete. So that cleared everything away. Now, let's say I made changes. Control U, Control V, Enter, loads my deck. Control L, loads the scenario. One more thing, because we play on Expert a lot, Shift Tab brings up this menu. And this side here is your defaults. If you set this one to Expert, every game you play will be Expert unless you change it. I keep it on Standard, and then just go to Mode and change that to Expert when I want to play an Expert game. And you have to do that before you load your deck. So let's say Expert, update. Now when I load Ultron, he is on Ultron 2, and I got my drone. So I just wanted to add that. Super fun and easy way to test your decks and iterate on them. Let me know what your gauntlet is. Let me know in the comments if you want me to do a full tutorial on Dragncards. Dragncards is a lot of fun. It makes it super easy to play a lot of games of Marvel Champions quickly. And even though I own the entire collection, I use this quite a bit. All right, I rambled too much in this video. I'm done for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a marvelous day.